Welcome back to This Week in Video Games, to my first Godfall video. And in this video I'm going to look forward to the new PS5 launch title Godfall and tell you why exactly I'm excited about this game. So Godfall was announced at the Game Awards 2019 as a launch title for PS5, and since then the hype has been building for this game. So it's been described as a looter slasher, similar to live service games like Destiny, The Division, but with one key difference. So instead of shooting guns, we're going to be battling with and chasing swords. So the original reveal trailer came out at the Game Awards 2019 and showed a character in elaborate armour running through a temple of some kind while it was crumbling around him. He was knocked back by an explosion onto the ground, and then the characters followed by two more characters holding big and elaborate swords. So all characters, they're covered in very cool looking armour, some with flames burning from the headgear. The camera pans back to reveal another character wielding a heavy sword inscribed with symbols. So the three characters, then they stand together, they walk outside, look up and say,
"No storm can stop us."
Wow, that was pretty cool. So that initial reveal trailer really got my attention. So there's a few things going on here. We've got a party of three characters, and they've since come out to say it is indeed 3-player co-op. We've got elaborate armour, we've got weapons. So one character is holding a huge flaming sword, and you can imagine chasing in either strikes or missions or something like that, and getting these armour and this loot as rewards. So the headgear and shoulder pieces look like the heads of huge cats. Perhaps there's lions or tigers or panthers, and then each of the three characters have got different styles, covered in head to toe in metal armour. So no actual gameplay was shown in the initial reveal trailer, although a GIF of gameplay was shown on the Godfall Twitter account afterwards. So at the start of January there was a leaked trailer which showed much more in-depth gameplay. So it opens up showing a single character looking over a snowy vista, cutting to another looking up at what looks to be a castle. So then we get the gameplay we've been waiting for, with a character thrusting a huge sword into a bunch of enemies, battling enemies with what looks to be a staff of some kind, fighting against a huge beast that's tied up against a wall, and with other enemies swirling and swinging their swords in what looks to be intense melee combat. So enemies appear to have a variety of weapons like axes, staffs, light swords and heavy swords. There seems to be a range of enemies too here, from trash mobs to mini-bosses. We also get a little glimpse of what looks to be co-op play, with two players taking on a huge knight in heavy armour covered in flames as they drop to one knee after being attacked. So the devs did come out and say that this footage was a year old, so you can only imagine what the footage looks like now after a year's worth of development. So perhaps we're gearing up to some sort of reveal soon, as there's a rumoured February 2020 event to showcase PlayStation 5, and Sony, they're going to want to show some of their launch titles in a lot more detail. From what we've seen so far, I'm really excited about this one. So over the past few years we've had Sekiro, and then elements of FromSoft's game combat system has appeared in other games like Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order, and we've got a lot of Souls-like games having come out, and that combat style is made it into their game. So combining the combat systems from something like Sekiro into a looter slasher genre sounds really exciting. We don't know in too much detail at the moment about the weapons, the armour or the classes, so it's a lot of guesswork for now, but we do know how hard it is to build, launch and then develop a live service game, so it's one to keep an eye on. Sony did release details on its website, which reads as follows. So Godfall is a brand new next-gen looter slasher set in a bright fantasy universe filled with heroic knights and arcane magic. So you can definitely see the fantasy elements coming through in the armour and the weapons. So magic is mentioned here too, so perhaps the magic is going to be weaved into our armour or weapons, or maybe we'll even have a specific subclass focused on magic. They go on to say, embark on an adventure on a fantasy action RPG that utilises high impact third person melee combat to engage players as they hunt for loot, don legendary armour sets and defeat vicious enemies. Face challenging missions that reward you with head turning loot, I really like that bit, as you vanquish the armies that stand against you. Wow. So that paragraph is all kinds of exciting. So action adventure RPGs are definitely my jam. So with The Legend of Zelda being up there as one of my favourite franchises of all time, and combining the action-adventure RPG style with loot-gathering games of like Destiny, well, I mean, this one has all the ingredients to be a fantastic game. Sony go on to say Counterplay Games is innovating with Godfall to provide a fresh take on third-person action combat, rewarding skill-based offensive gameplay, making every hit matter. So here, it definitely sounds like they're going to be leaning into the more challenging aspect of melee combat. So from the clips we've seen so far, you can see slashing, parrying, rolling, and it all looks quite Souls-like. So in a game like Destiny and The Division, you've got a range of enemies from smaller, weaker ones that you can dispose of fairly easily, to strike bosses that take a fair amount of time to take out. So it will be interesting if they're going to combine the kind of Souls-like melee combat action with something like a looter shooter like Destiny, then balancing the range of enemies is going to be really interesting, because you probably don't want to be fighting a huge enemy for 10 minutes each enemy that you fight. So they go on to say, face challenging missions that feed your yearning for the next best piece in your character, build and amass loot that has meaningful impact on gameplay. So this sounds like fairly standard live service looter talk, and it's a system we've become used to over the last few years. And they finish up by saying, go it alone or play with anyone at any time. Bosses and enemies have been designed with co-op in mind, boasting special abilities that counter multiple combatants attacking from different angles. Wow, this sounds really, really cool. So bosses and enemies, they're going to scale up the bigger that your party is. And it sounds like you can play solo or up to 3 players. So there's no mention of something like raids at the moment, but first I guess we should see how 3-player melee fights pan out before we ask for more. So this is being made by Counterplay Games based in California, and they say on their website that we're a tight-knit 75-person team with a vision to craft games focused on high levels of personal mastery, drawing from our past experiences working on Ratchet & Clank, God of War, Destiny 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Diablo 3, Gears 5, Star Wars Battlefront, Titanfall 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Evolve, Halo 5, Battlefield 3, Bioshock Infinite, Call of Duty, Injustice 2 and Overwatch. Wow, so some interesting stuff in there. There's definitely some great experience in there from looter shooters as well as online multiplayer games. And that specific line where they said they want to craft games focused on high levels of personal mastery. So that's really, really interesting to me. So I think if you can marry that mastery of a melee combat game where, you know, it takes you a few goes to get past an enemy and you really have to kind of level up your skill as well as level up your loot. And so you combine that mastery with the loot rewards from like a traditional looter shooter, then I think that's going to be super, super satisfying. So I think there's a lot to be excited about here, and we've only had a brief glimpse of this so far, and we're yet to get the official gameplay reveal. This one certainly has grabbed my attention, and what we've seen so far looks really, really good. So we're more than likely to get more details really soon as the PS5 hype machine is about to get turned on. So what do you want to see from Godfall, and what classes and weapons would you like? What other features from existing looter shooter games do you want to see in Godfall? For example, do you want raids, do you want strikes? Let me know if you're looking forward to Godfall and what you'd like to see down in the comments. So we only have a little bit of footage on Godfall at the moment, but I'm really, really excited about this one, and I'll be looking to cover more on Godfall as we get news and more details of the game. So that's it for this video on why I'm looking forward to Godfall, and thank you so much for watching. For more Godfall content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. And if you want to be notified the next time I upload, then hit that bell button too. So if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then liking and sharing would really help me out. Otherwise, check out these other videos on the channel. Thanks again, I'll see you soon.